Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to go through this afternoon's sessions. I'm going to talk about 3 sessions here. We're going to talk about what's going on with IoT, what's going on with AR, augmented reality. We're going to hear from the University of Newcastle, what they've been doing. And then I'm going to talk with Jonathan from the Answer side, who's in next door at the moment, about simulation-based digital twins. Okay, so really IoT and I want to start off with really how it's affecting everything. So it's really about connectivity, okay? So increased connectivity all over the place. And what's that affecting is the way we design, build, service products. So things like smart connected products now, okay? So we can remotely look at them, operate them, maintain them, analyze them, optimize them. Lots of intelligence being built into our products. We're also looking at things like on the manufacturing side. So this is really where we're talking about things like Industry 4.0, as we call it in this country, smart manufacturing, brilliant factory, made in China 2025. But it's really around those same techniques and technologies applied to the manufacturing environment. Okay. And lastly, we'd start to also look at things like smart cities, smart fields and work sites. There's a lot of interest from government around that, is how we can better optimize traffic flow, pedestrian flows, waste management, water usage, electricity usage, all those sorts of things. Okay. And what a lot of people talk about in this area is really this digital transformation of the world that we're living in, okay? So, PTC's message on this front is really around digital transformation, and some people talk about digital and physical convergence, okay? So we saw this slide at the start this morning really around PTC's logo. They rebranded a couple of years ago, P for physical, D for digital in their new logo. And it's really what they're looking to provide is, the means for companies to capitalize on this transformation, okay? So what does that really mean? It's really around looking at things like, look at how you transform your products, how you transform your processes, and how you transform your people, okay? And that's really what I'm going to be talking about in this afternoon's session, okay? So on the product side, we're talking about smart connected products, right? Be able to differentiate our products in the marketplace, drive service revenue. For our processes, we're talking about operational efficiency and effectiveness. And on the people side, we're basically looking at how we can get the right information to our workforce to improve productivity and quality. Okay. So what PTC have really been looking at is, what happens in the digital organization. And there are 2 bits of information that really flow around all of the different departments that you've got. Okay. So as we move towards a digital organization, there's a lot of talk about the digital thread. Okay. So that's really the way that information flows throughout the company, keeping track of that and traceability of that information, okay? The other part of it is around how we build digital twins, okay? So digital models that really help us to understand what's happening out there in the real world and better optimize what's going on with them, okay? So what PTC have really built is a whole system of products around this, okay? So the PTC Solution Suite built on Creo, Windchill, Thing Works, and Vuforia. So we talked a little bit this morning about, quite a bit this morning about Creo. We've mentioned Windchill and some of the tools that they have in that area. This afternoon, I'm really going to be talking about Thing Works and Vuforia. Also, PTC is leveraging their partnerships with companies like Ansys to import simulation, and we're going to be looking at that for digital twins. And PTC is doing a lot of work with Microsoft on this front as well, both on the Azure IoT, what Microsoft's doing there, and also the Azure platform for cloud-based storage and analysis and other things like that, okay? So, where does that put PTC? This has been a big focus of theirs over the past few years. I mean, these are the most recent sort of industry analysis reports on where PTC is in the IoT space, and essentially they're the market leader, okay? So, things like Quadrant saying they're the technology leader in the industrial IoT platform, okay? Global PLM leader, and they've been like that for a long time, okay? And that's really being driven by, as I said, the Thing Works product, which I'm going to talk about in this first session, and Vuforia for augmented reality in the next session, okay? So let's talk about Thing Works, okay? So Thing Works is PTC's industrial innovation platform. Some of you might have seen this slide before. It might be new to some of you. So I just really want to give you a bit of a summary of what Thing Works is before I dive off to what's been happening in that space, okay? So Thing Works is really designed to give you companies the ability to capture all of that information, okay? So we start off from this side here where we're sourcing information. So that might be sourcing data coming from your smart connected products, okay, that you've got censored up out there in the field. Maybe you've got some products that come with their own cloud-based data storage systems. You know, you bought a piece of off-the-shelf equipment that already streams into Azure or AWS. So maybe we can, rather than talking to the device, we'll talk to where the device stores its data. Okay. We might be looking at information from business systems. Okay, so within your organization, there's a lot of information that's stored inside your CRM, your ERP system, your MES system, all of those other systems that exist out there. Okay, that is important and relevant to the products and services that you're providing to your customers. We're also looking at factory operations. So this is where we start to get into Industry 4.0. We're talking about being able to connect into your SCADA, SCADE systems, PLC systems, historian databases, things on the manufacturing shop floor and how we react to those, okay? Or other sources of information, you know, our CAD systems, our PLM systems, you know, they're rich sources of information about product structures, build structures, change information, all of that kind of information gets stored inside PLM systems, or BIM systems or any other kind of digital content. So the idea of ThingWorks is really to be able to go and source those bits of information from all those different locations that you've got that information, okay? There is no single source of truth anymore. It's out there in all these different places, you know, particularly when the device is its own source of truth, okay? So once we've got all those bits of information sourced, then we can start to build a context around them. We can, in ThingWorks, we talk about things. We model a thing, and we grab all those little bits of information from all those different systems and say, here's all the properties or that describe that thing. Okay. Once we've got all of that, made a bit of sense of that, we can start to look at, well, what do we do with that information? Okay. So this is where we start to get into the analysis side of things. So we might be looking at things like machine learning, anomaly detection, predictive analytics. We might start to look at data analytics to analyze all of that data to tell us what's going on or what we should do. Okay. Or we might be looking at physics-based simulation to tell us what we should be doing. And that's really where ANSYS is starting to come to pick. Oops, sorry, I forgot these slides. So on the PLM Windchill, on the simulation side, we could be feeding data off into Creo to do it in that way. We can run Creo as a service to run an analysis. Or more recently, PTC have been partnering with ANSYS on their digital twin technology. So we can start to look at physics-based simulations of digital twins, which we'll talk about in the last session this afternoon. Okay. So once we've done that, we can start to look at, well, how do we, based on what the data is telling us and what the simulations are telling us, what should we actually now do? Orchestrate a response. Okay, so there's been a lot of work in this area from PTC, which we're going to talk about in this session. But, you know, we want to let people know, hey, this has been happening, do something about it. Okay, and then the last part is how we engage back with the users. How do we display that information? Is it through displays, through, you know, mashups and dashboards? Maybe we're looking at AR or wearables information, or maybe we're just talking back directly to the device to change the way it operates and behaves. Okay. So ThingWorks as a platform is really covering all of this. Okay, so there's lots that you can do with it, lots that it can do. So I guess I want to take you through, some of the things that have been happening in this space. Okay, so one of the tools that PTC has in the ThingWorks family is ThingWorks Navigate. Okay, so ThingWorks Navigate is an out-of-the-box tool built by PTC using ThingWorks, which is designed to basically look into Windchill. So I know we've got a few Windchill customers here in the audience today. So, and some of them I think are using Navigate as well already. So really what Navigate's designed is to provide a simple UI for the casual PLM user, right? So PLM systems are great. They control all of your product development information and processes. There's lots of valuable data locked away inside there. And they have a level of complexity that goes with that, okay? So if I'm a part-time user, imagine who wants to come in and just look at a drawing every now and then or approve something, that UI can be a little bit daunting for me. And there's tools we can do in Windchill to simplify that down, but really there's still a level of complexity there in the back end. Okay, so ThingWorks Navigate is really designed to give you a simpler UI into a PLM system like Windchill. So essentially we've got a bunch of role-based tasks. Okay, what do you want to do? I want to view a drawing, or I want to view a parts list, or I want to view a part structure, or I want to view a document. Okay. Hit that, type in the name or the number of it, find it, there it is. That's all I've got to do. I don't have to do anything else other than just find that specific bit of information. And the idea is that Navigate, then I can tailor that to say, well, people in this particular group within the organization, they can only do that one and that one, okay? And people, a different group of people, they might see documents and part structures and everything else, okay? So the idea is to give you that role-based user interface into your PLM system, okay? So something like viewing a parts list. Here I go, okay? I've found the part, here's all the parts list, here's all the states of everything, here's all the links to all the drawings and everything else if I need that. That's all I need to do. Nice and simple. Okay? So being built on ThingWorks, I was saying ThingWorks is designed to source data from multiple systems. So Navigate View comes out of the box to talk to Windchill, but we can also, if we've got our ThingWorks licensing set up, we can also start to configure to talk to other systems. So in this example, we're looking at that same thing. Here's a parts list, but what we're doing now is we're pulling information from our ERP system, in this case, SAP. Okay? So rather than doing a direct integration, we can start to look at, well, in Navigate, we're looking at information that's coming from Windchill. Here's all of our part numbers and quantities and lifecycle states and everything else. But also here's information coming from our ERP system about our currency, our cost, our stock quantities and things like that. So the idea is it allows us to start aggregating all of those multiple bits of data together into one view. Okay? So that's a little bit of what ThingWorks Navigate is about. In terms of where it's at now, probably the main release that's been come out since we talked last year is around Navigate 1.8. So basically simplifying the installation process, a new custom banner. So if you're going to be taking your server offline to do some sort of maintenance, your Windchill server offline, we can do that in Windchill. So we can also push a banner message like that through into Navigate to let all of our Navigate users know. A bunch of back-end stuff, performance improvements, things around search in Internet Explorer, cross-selection structure view, more sort of little changes here and there. And a version 1.9 was released earlier this year, which was really for compatibility with the latest versions of Windchill. Okay, so what we're actually looking forward is in July of this year, we're expecting Navigate 8.5. They're changing the numbering just to keep everyone on their toes, just to keep it synced up with the ThingWorks numbering system. So that's really about compatibility with Windchill 11.2, which is due next month, and also the introduction of the Contribute app, so the ability to use this kind of UI for people who want to be involved in change process and change tasks and things like that. Okay, so that's a little bit of what's been going on with ThingWorks Navigate. Another major part of ThingWorks is ThingWorks Flow. So ThingWorks Flow was first shown off at LiveWorks, PTC conference last year in June, and it's really around helping customers with all of those sort of tasks that need to happen based on what the data is telling you to do. So, ThingWorks were designed to source information. Okay, so ThingWorks can go and grab all of those bits of information, and it's really helping you to orchestrate a response. Okay, so this system is telling me something's going on. I now need to do something, right? So a lot of times that involves, in a lot of organizations, that involves manual processes where this has happened. Now someone gets an email notification, they'll go off and find a drawing, they'll go and download it, upload it, email it, do all those sorts of things, okay? So the idea of Flow, here's a couple of different scenarios where you might look at using Flow. So one is a connected service example. One of the big use cases for IoT is connected service, right? Remote monitoring of our pieces of equipment. So we've got our pieces of equipment out there in the field, connected up, streaming data back to base, and there's an alert, okay? So that alert comes through. We can identify what the asset is through ThingWorks. We could maybe go down into Windchill and start to pull out the as-built structure of that if we need to, okay? But it could be something simple like, well, here's an alert. We do a check on what is the alert type. Oh, it's running out of fuel, therefore we need to schedule a refuel service, right? We don't do that in ThingWorks. We do that in our CRM system, okay? And then we need to email the service tech to let them know what's going on, okay? So we might do it that way. Or maybe we have a high engine temperature alert. So in that case, again, we need to create an urgent service order, okay? But maybe we need to send a text message to someone to let them know, hey, this is going on. You need to shut the machine down, the generator down now before there's a problem, okay? So that's kind of like the flow of what might happen. So what PTC have done is built ThingWorks Flow to help us create that sort of thing, okay? So the idea is there's a whole bunch of connectors out of the box that come in. I've got a slide a bit later on that talks about the different examples. So the idea is I can define that kind of flow chart, okay? I can build those connectors. So I can say, trigger this based on an alert coming from those devices, get the information on that device through ThingWorks. Now, based on what type of alert it is, Now let's go and do this. So if it's a low fuel, then we'll create a refuel. So the idea is we can now build something through our CRM system, in this case salesforce.com, out of the box, drag and drop to create that record or to create a different sort of service case, and then start to integrate into other systems like Twilio for text messaging, Office 365 or Gmail for emails to build that service instruction up. So let's look at a different example. So this is another common thing we see from a lot of customers is supplier collaboration. Okay, so I've got all my data locked away in my PLM system. That's great. It manages everything. I control everything. But what happens is I want to collaborate with other people. So in an ideal world, your Windchill server would be available. Everyone, you put in a project, they would log in. But most of our customers don't put their Windchill server visible on the internet, right? There's a lot of back-end security you need to do, things like that to manage, okay? So what ends up happening is people put things into things like Dropbox or online file content management systems, or they use other systems, right? That's just the nature of the beast. So here we're looking at a similar thing, right? We've got a state change happens on something, which will trigger an event to happen. We'll go and find out the information for that. We will then decide what we're going to do. So based on that, we will upload that file into an online storage system, cloud-based storage system, or we might post a notification to an online collaboration board that we're using. Okay. So here's a look at a video of how this is working. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at a document. So create a supplier collaboration, and we're going to define the trigger. So the trigger is in Windchill. Here's our Windchill server. What we're looking for is a state change on a document. Okay, pretty simple, right? So that's what's going to trigger the flow to execute. So now we're going to go and look for our Windchill connector. And here's all the things we can look at Windchill. So Windchill has, out of the box, there's a get document connector. And we're also going to use Box for file storage. So we've got a Box connector. And we've also got our Office 365 email integration as well. Okay, so just drag those different connectors in, or those different templates in, we join them together. So now we can start editing how this flow, what's going to trigger this flow. So from our get document in Windchill, we're going to say, okay, here's the Windchill server. What we're looking for, based on the trigger we're going to use, we want to grab the native file content of that, and we want to actually have a link to the file itself, where it's buried away inside Windchill. Okay, and we want to take that and upload into Box. So here's our Box server. We're going to say the source is coming from, and you can see how it's building up these inputs based on what we've had happen previously. So we're going to get the document from Windchill, the file URL, and we're going to upload it into this Box folder. Okay, and then we're going to send an email. So we're going to use our Office 365 email, who it's going to go to, the subject of the email. We're going to use the file name that comes out of Windchill. The body of the email, we're also going to use the file name that comes out of Windchill. And we're also going to include a URL into where that file is actually being stored inside Box. So we'll go up to Box, the upload of the file, expand out all the properties that Box generates, okay, the shared link, and we'll give them the link to that. Okay, and that's our flow created. All right, so we're done. We save that. So this is basically running in the background. So now we're going to go out to Windchill, and we're going to promote a document or change the state of a document. So here's a document. Let's set the state to production. And when we hit OK, we're going to jump back in and you'll see the flow executing. It's pretty quick. Okay, jump back to flow, and there's the flow running. You can see the arrows as it moves along doing all of those tasks. Okay, if we look down at the bottom, we can see here's all the different bits that happened. Okay, and now we can go into those systems and see what's happened. So in our Box system, when we refresh the page, there's the PDF file got automatically pulled out of Windchill and uploaded into Box. Here's the email that automatically got sent out with a link to that file in Box. Okay, I can download that and off I go. Right. So really that's what flow is about. Okay, it's handling that business flow, because what happens is it doesn't happen in one system. Right, you've got multiple systems that happen, and the problem is that people usually have to manually get involved in that process to take information from one system into another. Or what people will do is they'll try and build an integration between those two systems, which becomes essentially customization, okay? And then that affects when you can do upgrades or things like that. So what PTC is looking at building flow is to give you these out-of-the-box connectors to quickly and easily build these business flows between the different systems within your organization. And you saw in that example there was no coding done whatsoever. That flow was all through the GUI, okay? So it's building that and running that code for you. So in terms of connectors, out of the box, 50 different enterprise systems, a whole lot there. Obviously Windchill from PTC, but things like SAP, Salesforce, ServiceMax, the Microsoft products, the Google products, a whole bunch of file storage system, a whole lot of collaboration tools and things like that, okay? If you don't have the right one there, if you're using some other system that's not there, you can use a whole bunch of different standards-based connectors, okay? Connecting over HTTP, SOAP, Swagger, ODBC, whatever it might be, okay? Or you can go and build your own connectors if you really want to or need to, okay? So that's really what ThingWorx Flow is all about. So that's a part of ThingWorx. It was introduced, as I said, shown last year, became available earlier this year inside ThingWorx 8.4, okay? Really around making your processes more efficient, okay? All right, so let's speed it up. Last thing I want to talk about, this is a customer story from a company that we've done some recent work with. They just finished, I guess, phase 1 of their ThingWorx rollout. So this is Elsom Engineering. So they're a company based in Melbourne, small manufacturing company, been going for about 40 years, lots and lots of different components they make every day. And what they were really interested in was getting better efficiencies or a better understanding of what's happening on the shop floor, okay? So they had a whole bunch of different equipment out there on the floor, some of them smart and connected, so they didn't really need to do too much on that. They already knew what was going on with those machines. Some are older pieces of equipment that weren't intelligent, and what they were looking at was to get a better idea of what was happening out there in the factory with all those pieces of equipment. So they've rolled out ThingWorx. They put a bit of hardware in place to some sensors on these older pieces of equipment, and I guess this is what they've found. So
Elsom's a metal manufacturing business. We've been around for a bit over 40 years. So second generation through the company at the moment. Our main focus is manufacturing metal components to major industry. So we've been doing that for a while now, and we've learned a lot on that journey, but it never ends. We've got thousands of components going through the plant in any one day, and everything on demand, supplied to best fit quality for all our customers. So look, I think the technology really fits in our organisation as part of our continual improvement journey. That's really where it fits. Any business that's really takes their continual improvement seriously needs to back it up with good tools. A lot of it for us is very much a cultural type focus. Everyone knows that we need to be better than we were yesterday. Next year we need to offer improvement. And really the ThingWorx tool is a very natural ability for people to grab hold of that and work in. So I think the ThingWorx platform moving forward is really important for us. What it does is it's going to give us a live shop floor ability to drill down on what's actually happening with our activities. Well, it's nice to move towards a gold standard with manufacturing, and I think ThingWorx will help us get at that real-time feedback. But really what we're going for is world-class. We're going for best practice worldwide. There's no reason why every business in Australia can't actually achieve that. So we're planning to roll ThingWorx out across the entire business. Shop floor up is where we're starting, but don't think it stops there. All the way up through middle management, right up to the senior level. We chose ThingWorx because it's simple, it's straightforward, and it doesn't cut any corners in terms of long-term vision. What do I mean by that? I mean by we can get running quickly now, but in the medium to long term, I can be asking what might be seemingly impossible questions, and I know that there's future-proofing there. Right now, we're focused on operational improvement. I think there's many strings in the bow. So what do I mean by operational improvement? So we're looking at metrics such as OEE, we're looking at our quality performance, we're also looking at operational metrics for throughput. So how many units per hour or what kind of machine activity we get. So that might be measurements of time, measurements of motion, movements of activity. All these sort of things lend themselves well to lean and Six Sigma type approach to improvement. OEE or operational overall equipment effectiveness is really important. We aspire to be running our production standards to a world standard. Our quality is world leading. Our delivery performance is world leading. OEE really, I think, captures that in one nice simple metric. So actually every operator ground floor up is getting their own screens, their own live data feeds. With ThingWorx, it's very easy for us to customize operator specific data in real time. And that's really going to be a key thing for us moving forward. So shop floor up, and from a manufacturing perspective with our tools and engineering and machines, ThingWorks will give us that critical information to really approach world's best standard. A lot of our focus opening round is on OEE. OEE, if you want to look it up, is definitely a focus on best practice standard. No one's coming to help us here in Australia with manufacturing. We really need to step up and look at what's happening on the world stage. ThingWorks allows us to do that very quickly.